You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Hello and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I am your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is Matthew Garber. Matthew is a mastering engineer based out of Charleston, South Carolina, and the owner of For the Record Mastering. Upon opening its doors, For the Record Mastering quickly carved its niche in the local indie music scene, and for the past couple years has grown alongside its client roster. Matt is also the co-host of the awesome podcast, The Attack and Release Show, along with former Secret Sonics guest, Sam Moses. Sam actually put Matt and I in touch, so it's a real pleasure to have Matt with us here today. Welcome to Secret Sonics, Matt.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Doing good. We're acting as if we haven't schmoozed for the past 45 minutes. Well,
I appreciate you welcoming me to your home. It's cool. I've listened to a few of these episodes, and I really like your format. I really like what you do, and so it's really like an honor for you to reach out.
Well, I super appreciate that because it's an honor to have you on, and I love what you're doing also on your show.
Well, thank you.
So tell us a bit about how you got started getting involved in music production.
To sound as least like a jerk as I can, I went up to a worship pastor at one of the first churches I went to after college, and I said, "How do you think the mix sounds?" And he says, "I think it sounds good. How do you think it sounds?" And I said, "Not the best." And he said, "Do you think you could make it sound any better?" And I said, "I don't think I can make it sound any worse." And so I had no idea what I was doing, and some would argue today that I still don't. But yeah, so I got into that, and it was one of my good friends, Kevin Brushert, who was the worship leader at that church, and he would always dumb things down as much as he could. But I mean, there's only so many ways you can dumb down compression, equalization, gates, and reverse phasing to like someone who had absolutely zero idea about it. So I'd go home and I'd research it, and I'd come back and try to not screw it up the next week. So
wow.
I believe the word is like autodidactical, completely self-taught.
Wow.
So
did you have like a background in music? Were you playing any instruments or anything like that?
Growing up, I played piano because I think like everyone, my grandma wanted me to. And then I sang for a long while from, I want to say like third or fourth grade in church choirs and whatnot. And they'd have like chime choirs and bell choirs. So I'd do all that. And then all through, I think, middle school and then high school, I was always in choruses up until about my senior year. And then I discovered a love of cigars, and then my voice went away.
Do you miss it?
Maybe when I'm singing in the shower. I wish I could hold a tune a little better, but not as much. I mean, right now it's like having a kid. It's like all I'm singing is Barney tunes, so it's not as important to stay on key. So yeah. It's like if I'm ever trying to say something to a client, like, yeah, you know this part, and I like kind of like sing it out, and I'm like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. So maybe those times, and I sound just like a complete goober.
Yeah, you get that huskiness to your voice now.
Yeah, the weird thing is in college, I would always steal my roommate's guitar and just kind of like fiddle around with it, and I think he eventually got upset with me. He's like, there's like a supply closet up on the 4th floor. You can go check that out. And I think there's like an old rusty guitar up there. And so I put the word out, hey, if this is anyone's, let me know. If not, I'm keeping it. And so over the year, I fixed it up and I taught myself how to play guitar.
Wow.
And did that and got really into it senior year of college. And then I had a cigar store with about 7 to 8 guitars. I hung on the wall and had amps everywhere and stuff like that. And we do stuff at church, and they'd let us in at like all hours and just give us a key to the place, and we could just use it as practice space or whatever. And so if like a worship leader would leave or transfer a job, like I would kind of fill in and find a vocalist, and like I would at least kind of be like MD or something, like kind of like direct the band about like, okay, this is what we're going to do next. And then that really got into front of house. And then I used to want to tour front of house, and I did not do that, which I'm kind of glad I did not do that. Just I didn't realize how much I'd like being home as a dad. So I ended up not doing that. And then I've always had like a very technical background. I've always liked very technical and difficult to grasp concepts, and I've just kind of always pushed myself to grasp that. So it's like when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a pilot. My dad was always going to China when I was a kid, 5 times a year for 3 weeks at a time. And so I was like, man, it'd be cool to learn how to fly that plane. And so I like thought it'd be so cool to be a pilot. And so when I was 9 years old, I started the landscape business from when I was 9 to when I was 18. And I'd use all that money and go out to the local municipal airport, and I would take that money just to the flight school, and I'd say, hey, I want to learn how to fly. And I ended up flying airplanes before I was driving cars.
Seriously?
So,
oh my God.
yeah, around 15 years old, maybe 14, 15 years old, I started flying. And then, so yeah, I've always really liked very technically difficult things and that like really, really push you, because like when you get down from flying, I mean, if you're just flying with instruments, they'll put like a hood over your eyes so that like you can only see the instrument. So it completely blocks out the window, and you're flying in what they call instrument conditions. It's called IFR, like instrument flight rules, or you have like, if it's a perfect day outside, it's called VFR, visual flight rules.
Okay.
So it's like a day of flying, like, or however many hours of flying IFR initially, you just zonk your brain just because like you're constantly scanning gauges and trying not to die. So, but it teaches you if you fly into clouds or fog, like how you can like successfully get out of that, or how you can continue your flight plan through that. And so, yeah, I've always had a very technical background. So, everything, like all the music stuff came pretty naturally. And like, my flight instructors, they were so, like the turnover rate at the airport was so crazy that I would almost have to teach myself the principles, and I'd go home to like Microsoft Flight Simulator. And so I'd learn how to fly what they just told me how to fly, and then I'd have to figure it out whenever I got back to the next lesson. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was always just, I guess it's been like that my whole life. And so mastering just kind of came naturally.
Yeah, it sounds like a good fit.
Yeah, so
was there any story behind going from like doing front of house into mastering?
Once again, my friend Kevin Brushert was telling me about a handful of mastering engineers that he uses. And he's like, you have the ear, you might find this interesting, and you have the nerdy technical side that you may find this to be an interesting thing. So,
right.
At first, I was very opposed to anything studio related. I don't know why, but I initially just did not gravitate towards anything studio, and it's like, no, I want to do this all on the fly, and I want to learn how to like EQ this, so that like I tell the guitarist to do this, and then inevitably they're gonna go and they're gonna do the exact opposite, and they're gonna turn up their amp after I tell them to turn it down. Or it's like I really enjoyed the complications of so like you have a room completely mixed during like a practice session, but then when everybody comes in, it's completely different. The temperature of the room changes, the humidity of the room changes, everything sonically about that room changes, and so you're in this mad scramble for the first like however many first seconds of the song just to make sure that everything's all in place and everything's holding to where it should be. And I always liked that like thinking on your feet type thing, but I really got into mastering, and the more I knew that I was going to get married, and we knew that we were going to have a kid. It's like, yeah, this is a path that I want to pursue. And so, I knew I didn't
stability,
want
like the consistency of the work. Like,
no, it's like, I know I can do all that. It's just, I don't know. I just like, yeah, I know I can do this. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's give it a shot. So, It's kind of weird, but it's not like, I promise it's not cockiness. Like sometimes you just like know that like, yeah, okay, I'll give this a shot, and I'm going to own every failure along with every win. And I just want to make the best music I can for my customer and my client. Like that's all I want there's nothing personal out of it for me. I just want to make music sound really awesome for people.
You just like enjoy the process of making a song sound better, basically.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's I don't know if you've ever seen this. There's this thing that Focusrite put out when they were going around looking at like trying to find all their original ISA consoles, and it was it was like a 50-minute video, and I watch it at least 4 times a year just because it's that crazy. And yeah, and so I'll go and I'll like one of the consoles, they were like kind of describing the sound of it, and this guy's like, yeah, this rapper was like, man, people always tell me that I sound dangerous and I sound sexy, and I never understood that. He's like, until I listen to myself like right now, like through like whatever you got going on. And I was sitting in the back and I was like, man, I sound dangerous and I sound sexy. And it's like, you helped me understand that point. And so with mastering, that's really what I want, is I want like the artist to understand how like people perceive them, and I want them to like believe what they like are, like whether it's a persona, whether it's themselves, whether it's whatever they're doing. It's like, I want to enable you and what you are doing to like ultimately go to the next level, and to literally just put, even if it's just your only record you're ever going to put out in your whole life, and you're just going to like live on an island the rest of your life, I want you to believe that that was the best that record could have ever sounded. And nice. So, but don't get me wrong, there's an ebb and a flow. I think there's a mastering engineer named Bob Katz, and he says that.
Yeah, I got his book right behind me.
Yeah, I think I have it. There. I think I have it like on one of these drawers back here. He has a saying that a master can only take a mix up 1 letter grade. So cool. I'll kind of bookend that whole segment with that. So it's like I can't make chicken salad out of chicken poop.
Right.
So, but I can take a B mix and make it an A, and I can take an A plus and I can put a little shine on it, or I can just say, this is perfect. You don't need a mastering engineer. And you have to like have the lack of ego to say, this is perfect. Like, that's why you hire a mastering engineer, more for quality control.
Yeah, I think the reason why you hire a mastering engineer is because, at least in my own words, is that just by the end of a mix, you have no objectivity anymore. You just don't know what's right, and then you start to like overthink like micro decisions that don't really matter. And that's like, it's like, okay, let's give it to another guy who has has an objective set of ears and can tell me if I nailed it or didn't nail it. You know what I mean?
My favorite saying is that a mastering engineer has 0 baggage in the project. And I mean, it couldn't be any more true. And it's like, don't get me wrong, feel free to send me like a mix to say, hey, how do you think this sounds? And so that might give me a little bit of baggage, but I mean, for the most part, it's like, I don't have any money tied up in it. This is just my opinion at the end of the day. It's an independent set of ears. And however many times I've gone back to a producer or mix engineer and just been like, hey, this does this into this part of the song. I just want to make sure that this is intentional. Or, hey, there's a little part of distortion here. I want to make sure that that's like actually what you intended. And just like, hey, we're just going to check real quick because that's what I do. And I mean, besides that, I take every mix as it's like completely signed off, and this is a client approved, like in quotes, client approved mix.
Yeah.
And you're good to go. But I mean, you hire me ultimately, be like, yeah, okay, yeah. Like, I know exactly where this is going. And like, I'll listen to your references, and well, let's make this puppy shine.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about your workflow when you're, working with artists, and how you approach a master.
Well, we have a podcast episode about workflow where I think we just released it.
I think this may have been a few weeks ago, actually.
Maybe.
Could it be?
Yeah, it's definitely early season 3. So my general workflow is if someone just reaches out to me, and I want to be as like personable as I can. Like, I think the people who, not that are going to lose, but will lose favor over time, and maybe they may make money in spite of themselves, are the people who just have the upload it here, and I'm not going to talk to you until it's done. I'm going to be in communication with you 100% of the time, And it's kind of like when you sign up for like tracking notifications on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out a way that like I can let you know where in the mastering stage everything is. And so like it like emails you or like sends you like a text